We are a couple of days into the new expansion now. I think people are starting to have some idea of which decks seem to be quite strong and which decks maybe aren't quite there yet. So today we're going to be playing Dirt Rune, which is one of the decks that people seem to be quite happy with in the current meta. I just thought it looked pretty fun with all the Evo stuff as well, so I thought I would try it out. And also I realized I actually haven't done a single Rune video on this channel since Worlds Beyond started, so I guess today marks my first one. So yeah, let's look at the deck list we're playing for today first. So this deck list we're playing for today, you can see I've strayed a bit from the usual template lists for just testing out some other stuff, because I figured like you've probably already seen like the template list and the kind of stuff that it can do. So yeah, I thought it would go with a bit more tech card heavy list. So we're running one Ryo here because he helps clear Haven boards. Spoiler alert, I didn't run into a single Haven player while I was playing this deck, so Ryo ended up not being able to do his main job of clearing Haven boards. I run Velharia as well for a similar reason. Her Evolve helps clear Albert, her Super Evolve helps clear certain followers, not all of them. The main answer she provides is she helps you clear Norman, she helps you clear Congregant of Unkilling, and she helps you clear Congregant of Entwining as well. And other boards, I guess if they summon a lot of the same follower, you can use Velharia to answer them, but those are the main goals. Other than that, she can just cycle for 2, so I just ran 2 copies of her, and then 1 Gilnelis for a bit more damage or healing depending on what you need. She's just a very flexible card. Obviously this is much more expensive than like one of the more standard template lists, so if you want to reduce the cost of this deck, you just swap some of these legendaries out for the Astrologer Apprentice. Astrologer, sorry, I think it's called. It's the 2 cost that just generates a dirt. Well, it's a 2 cost, it's a ruby that just generates dirt, so yeah, definitely fine to run that instead. I'm just testing out other cards. Other than that, the list is pretty straightforward stuff. A lot of dirt support, free evos, you use to activate Cagliostro's Super Skybound art, as well as Sandalphon's Super Skybound art. Yeah, so this is the list we're playing for today. Let's look at some games. Our first game here is against Rune. For now, I do assume that it's the Dirt Mirror, but Spellboost is definitely picking up in popularity recently, so you might want to adjust that expectation, especially if you are higher on ladder probably. So for the mother game, we just look for our 2 cost followers, the 1 cost Dirt, and Cagliostro is pretty good to keep as well. So unfortunately no early game for us, which is quite unfortunate, so we just have to hope we draw something at some point, but until then we just have to keep passing here. And there's the Apprentice Astrologer, so my opponent is running it. Again, if you want to reduce the cost of this deck or increase, it also makes the deck more consistent, so you can definitely cut Velharia and like Gilnelis and stuff if you just want to run Apprentice Astrologer instead. It's cheaper and more consistent, but I'm just doing some testing to see if it helps against the meta. Anyway, my opponent is playing a lot of followers. In contrast, I have nothing to do, so I just use a Sage Light to generate dirts. Arguably, it's a bit risky to spend my Sage Light on generating dirts instead of board clear or healing, but I literally have nothing better to do. All the cards in my hand are dirt payoffs, so I kind of need to generate dirts for me to do anything. So my opponent went a bit wide here, so we're just going to go ahead and use Sage Light Teachings to clear this board so I don't die. As you can see, I took a lot of damage. And just hope my opponent slows down a bit. So my opponent is slowing down a bit here with just a Melvie play, which is not too difficult to deal with, so we're happy with that. And they go ahead and evolve the Melvie, which tells us they have a Super Skybound art follower in hand that they like, probably either Cagliostro or Sandalphon. At this turn, normally the classic is the Coin Norman, but if you look at my hand, the only dirt generator I have is Cagliostro, and she only generates 2 dirts. On the other hand, I have a lot of cards that eat dirts in my hand. And also I do kind of want to save Cagliostro for at least her Skybound art. So with that in mind, instead of playing Norman, I go ahead and point out the Mirail and reset, I don't know how to pronounce that name, so that I can maintain this dirt on board that I can use to keep increasing the value of. In contrast, my opponent will go ahead and just play the Norman. They definitely have the dirts to afford it. So yeah, you just have to make some decisions based on dirt. I mean, you could argue that just going Norman anyway would have been fine and just play Cagliostro next turn or something, but personally I feel like maintaining the dirt value on board is quite important for this deck. I mean, it is a dirt deck, so yeah. Here we can go ahead and give Velharia a time to shine here by banishing those golems. And then we can just go ahead and increase our dirts. Arguably, you can keep Penelope for her super Evo, but I don't really feel like... I feel like I just need the immediate dirt generation. So I went to play her. Could be wrong, honestly. It's one of those... this deck is surprisingly difficult to play, so I won't be surprised if there are some misplays. You can see my opponent here chooses to super evolve the Penelope instead of the Perfumer, which leaves my Penelope alive. So presumably they need to draw their cards for some reason. We can take advantage of that by super evolving Penelope to draw as well as generate more dirt. We pick up double Aetherwise here, which is very good for accelerating our Skyburn art count. So next time we can probably get Cagliostro active if we can play a follower. I just realized we don't actually have a follower that can activate it, so who knows. Worst case, we can play one Cagliostro to activate the second one. That's also an option. My opponent drops Lilanthem here. We haven't seen Sandalphon yet, but if my opponent... Well, if you check my opponent's played card, so... one free Evo card here, and they've evolved 4 times, so they evolved 5 times. So actually, Sandalphon's not active yet. I went, my goal for this turn was to go Norman here because I didn't want to, definitely no way I'm clearing this Lanthem, so the idea is to just to expand my board here. Ideally they just can't clear this board and I can win off of that because they are very low. And we have Sandalphon and we have Cagliostro in hand. But even if that doesn't work, we can hopefully force them to spend a lot of dirts on clearing this Norman. You can see luckily my opponent didn't have Sage Light. If my opponent had Sage Light, they probably would have been able to clear the board, maybe even when faced with Lilanthem, which would have been quite scary for me, but I guess luckily they didn't manage to do that, so yeah, I'm just trading in and they leave Norman alive, which lets me get lethal with Cagliostro. Even if I didn't manage to get lethal, actually if I didn't get lethal with Cagliostro, I might have been in some trouble. I do have Sage Light and Cagliostro to heal up. I can probably at least make the Lilanthem go back down to a 5-5, even though that wouldn't necessarily win the game. But you know, there are things that I could have done here. I probably would have died to Sandalphon next turn, maybe, but actually, do they even have... I don't think they even have Sandalphon access next turn, so I might have been fine, who knows? Let's see here. I think no, actually they have Sandalphon, so I might have died next turn, but oh well, I guess I got lucky then, I don't know. Anyway, we'll just go ahead and play Cagliostro here and we can just kill them with the spell, but they just concede. Next here is next game here, sorry, is against Abyss. Once again, we just keep early game. Since we have 2 good generators for dirt, I just kept Miriel and Rosette because they are quite strong, both for tempo and for activating Skybound arts. Unfortunately, we don't pick up our Skybound arts, so it's a bit unfortunate. We just go ahead and drop Penelope here. Abyss, the Evo seems to be quite popular right now, so I'll just expect that. Of course, there's still aggro and mode and mid-range or whatever running around, so there's that to keep in mind, but now I operate under the assumption that it's some kind of Evo deck, so we just go ahead and punch them in the face here. The skeleton isn't really a threat. We definitely want to pressure them down because if we manage to let them get Belial pressed active for too easily, we are in trouble. Yeah, I get pretty lucky here with where Aetherwise hit. Worst case, I can use Alchemical Flare to clear it as well, so it's not a big deal, but definitely is more lucky that we do land the 50-50 there. My opponent will go ahead and use their Supplicant to heal as well, which is fine. We can go ahead and use Aetherwise to clear that. Definitely should have played Witch's Brew first, I think. Well, actually no, there's a bit of an argument here, so I played Witch's Brew here and I drew a super Skybound art follower and play Aetherwise. Obviously there's value there, but by using the Act first and then playing the Cauldron, I can get one more dirt out of it. And as you can see, my hand is very dirt heavy in terms of spending, but not a lot of generators, so once again we do need to prioritize some level of just generating dirt. opponent will play the Grand Gita here, which is fine by me. It leaves us an empty board to work with, and we do pick up Cagliostro here, which is very good. We go ahead with the Norman special, and we just make a board. Of course, there are stuff like Medusa that a lot of Evo decks are running now, I think. But I mean, we can force them to spend the Medusa. I guess it's not that big of a deal. We just don't give them time to evolve followers. There's the Medusa, which is fine. We have second Norman, so they can deal with the first Norman, but can they deal with the second one? Usually I expect no, unless they have the second Medusa. If not, they should have trouble with this board because Abyss doesn't have good ways to clear Norman boards, which is something you learn if you play a lot of Abyss, I guess. We're gonna hit at the second Norman board here, and they will be forced to spend their belly out here, which is huge for us because that will delay their OTK. And they pass here, which looks like a misplay from them, and well, depending on perspective, it might be a misplay, but I would say that probably they need to save the evo points for more higher value evolves. This super evolve doesn't really do anything, and they need the evolves to activate their super skybound art, so I think they saved it at risk taking extra damage from the guardian golems with the logic that they can try to heal off the damage, and it's probably more likely for them to win by doing this than to evolve the Belial, which I don't disagree with, I guess. I don't know what's going on in their hand though, so I can't say for sure. Anyway, we'll go ahead and keep up the pressure by evolving, and this will also help us activate our skybound art. As you can see, we are a bit far away than a bit further away than we would like to be. Also, for some reason, I keep drawing this Ryo like every game. I only have one copy of him, but he just keeps showing up for some reason. I don't know why. Out comes Sandalphon here, which is quite nice. We can go ahead and start working on him, and his crest will be quite decent. It's not the most powerful crest or anything, but you know, it's not bad. And we have him get Cagliostro's Super Skybound are active, so we can start getting these spells to pick my opponent in the face with. Opponent uses Nehan to heal. Unfortunately for them, they didn't have anything to line up with, so I guess they pull out the Satyr. And that will clear my board, but they are also just dead, I think. Are they? They might be. Oh yeah, they are dead. So he goes Edelweiss to clear here, and then Sandalphon's Skybound art will be active, and combined with Ars Magna, that is going to be lethal. So yeah, that's it for this game. And our last game here is against Porto, and we are going second. Mulligan is the same. We keep early cost followers, and then we keep Cagliostro for her. Our opponent drops Puppet Cat here, so this is Puppet or some other aggressive deck probably. Obviously, no Toran play. That's really not worth spending the coin out a follower here. I don't think so. We just pass. My opponent drops the Lustrak Puppeteer, which is quite a standard curve for them, I guess. And we just drop Malfi to contest board here. Here my opponent whips out the show, which is interesting. So it's definitely not going to be any egg Porto deck, that's for sure. And we don't know if it's some kind of weird aggro deck or if it's just Puppet that's running him as like extra finisher power. So opponent has Grand and Gita as well. General value card, so like it's not the worst thing to run in like any deck, honestly. From here we can stage our counter attack using the Perfumer to clear their board while generating more dirt to look for a Norman play next turn or something. If we can top deck Norman. Otherwise then Grand and Cheetah or something like that probably is fine. There's the Zwei. It's quite annoying. So they will go ahead and clear our board here. And drop their extra ward to protect the Zwei to try and get it to go face. Unfortunately for us, we can drop Edelweiss here. I will point out here that if Edelweiss happen to hit the Zwei, which is like a 1 in 4 chance, I actually can't clear this board. So luckily for me, I guess, it didn't miss. Go ahead and coin out Grand and Gita. Unfortunately, the Grand and Gita does miss here, so we do have to evolve them to trade into Zwei. You could argue that evolving them is good anyway to activate Skybound art, and I'm not really sure of the correct answer in that case, but I would probably have saved the evo point there if I managed to hit the 50-50. My opponent drops our second Zwei, which will once again clear my board and be annoying, but at least they don't have another Puppet this time. Use a chemical flare to clear as well as Gilnalis to help heal. And generate more dirt. It's looking pretty decent from this spot, but you can see my hand is quite empty here. My only draw cost is Penelope's, which I have to spend a super evolve for. So it's a bit concerning that I'm already spending all my evo points here, but there's not much of a better move for me, I don't think, because I need to draw cards because my hand is empty. I'm gonna drop double Tsubasa here, which is also quite interesting. I'm not really sure what they're cooking here. We go ahead and super evolve Penelope to draw more cards. Pick out a Muriel and a Reset, which is nice for more tempo on board. Try to force out a Orchis to board clear Orchis so they can't hit my face. And also to help activate Cagliostro Skybound Art, of course. We will go ahead and super evolve an Orchis here. Very luckily for me, most of it goes board, so that's a lot of their damage that they've just lost by doing that. You could coin out Ryo here, it is an argument. I didn't really think of it at the time. I can't really guarantee that it's the correct answer to coin out Ryo here anyway. I go ahead and draw Edelweiss here, try to hit a 2 in 3. Unfortunately, I do miss here, so I trade the Edelweiss and then play Cagliostro to clear the Orchis. And here I don't play the Witch's Brew. The idea was to conserve my sources of dirt. I'm not sure if that was necessary, but in hindsight, saving the Witch's Brew actually is pretty decent to combine with Ryo, because Ryo will increase the cost of followers in your hand. So by playing Ryo first and then Witch's Brew, you can avoid increasing the cost, and you can also draw a reduced follower. So if you think about it that way, maybe it was actually fine to just not play Witch's Brew here. I don't really know. This game was a bit... These few turns were a bit complicating to play, I think. I'll come Sandalphon here, which will help me heal, which is very nice. Go ahead and draw another Cagliostro. We definitely don't want to play Ryo this turn because Ryo is reserved for helping clear Orchis boards because this deck doesn't have better ways to do that. Go ahead and just try to heal up. Play Sage Light as well, which will help us heal more. And we just pass here. There's another Orchis from my opponent, so this should be their last evil point, so hopefully we can stabilize from this point onwards. They'll super evolve their Orchis, and they have Puppet Cat as well, which is quite bad for me because there's a lot of damage coming to my face. And I guess they have a second Puppet Cat just for good measure. So 2 of their cards in hand are actually puppets right now. Or 1 of it now, I guess. If you are a more focused player, you should be keeping track of that, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't really bother. Now is Ryo's time to shine here. Unfortunately, we do lose the Ars Magna. Well, actually, we don't have another spell, so I guess we always lose the Ars Magna here. Then we just draw a discounted follower. Unfortunately, our Norman is increased cost, which is quite bad for us. That's Chaos Legion. We are on 1 here, so if they actually had another copy of Show, we would have died, but thankfully they didn't, so they just settled for clearing our Ryo here. We know one of those cards in hand is a puppet, so that's a very low chance they have like anything particularly strong. We want to heal out of range of the Chaos Legion though, so we go ahead and play Norman to heal here. And play Cagliostro as well to get another Ars Magna. And this sets out a board while also healing out of range of a second Chaos Legion. And also out of range of a third Orchis, I guess. At this point we set out a board while chipping them down quite a bit. Honestly, we are still quite a bit of trouble. We do have the combination of Muriel into Sandalphon though. Muriel, we have a combination of Ars Magna, Muriel, Sandalphon. So if my opponent doesn't clear while not putting out a solid board, we can win from this position. So we are technically fine there. My opponent just concedes anyway. So those are all the games I have for you today. Hopefully he gave you some idea of the strengths of this deck. Mainly it's just an Evo deck which wins by tempo into Sandalphon as a finisher. Unfortunately, this means that if your opponent has a heavy control deck, you might have some trouble. Egg Portal is pretty annoying. I imagine Mold is also quite annoying, but I haven't run into Mold with this deck, so I'm not sure. And a pure control heavy Crest Haven might also present some trouble. I only ran into 1 Haven player and they were playing pure Crest, and I did lose that game, so there's that, I guess. And that, yeah, the tech cards worked out pretty well. I think I actually did manage to showcase their strengths in these games, which is quite nice. But obviously they are like tech cards that only do something in specific matchups. So if you want more consistency, you can consider swapping them out. At this point, I will also point out that players who manage to climb high into the ranks, like people who have really reached beyond or like high grandmaster, have already begun reporting that Dirt is falling off like a little bit already. So keep that in mind if you are interested in playing this deck. There is like a non-zero chance that Dirt stops being a meta deck later on in the expansion once people start optimizing lists and figuring out what the actual strongest decks are. So yeah, just keep that in mind if you end up crafting this deck, I guess. Anyway, that's it for today. See you next time. Bye bye.